That's what I go back to now when I try to let go of old Jordan. I go back to presence.
Mm.
And in the presence is the stillness and the expansiveness of who we are. And it's really beautiful, but it is difficult to get there, when on a daily basis, when we have so many things going on, people relying on us, jobs, etc. But that's the default state. And sometimes just taking a deep breath, one or two deep breaths right into the heart,
Mm.
just resets your whole experience on earth.
On Mirror Talk Soulful Conversations, I'm joined by a writer, creative, and storyteller whose life was radically transformed through deep inner work and guided psychedelic healing journeys. A profound experience revealed that what felt like a past life memory, unlocking grief, clarity, and a reconnection to self that continues to shape his path. Through writing, sound healing, and soul exploration, he has made it his journey to turn pain into purpose, creating space for raw truth, healing, and transformation. Welcome to the show, Jordan. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing better now. Thank you so much. I had to repeat. Nobody will know that I repeated this introduction, but I lost my voice at some point. So
Oh,
I'm doing good.
you're not supposed to tell them. They're supposed to think it's all perfect. That's the way it works.
You talked about, your idea for raw truth. So like when I was preparing for this conversation, I'm like, Jordan is for raw truth. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to be as honest as possible
Yes, I
and
like that.
and try to be.
Authenticity. We
Yes,
need more of that nowadays.
exactly, exactly. So I'm doing fine, and I'm happy that I get to speak with you, and I'm looking forward to learning so much from you from this conversation. But before we go into your music, your healing journey, and everything that you do, I would love us to play a game of wild cards. So, like I told you before we started recording, I have three stacks of cards. I have the icebreakers, the confessions, and getting deep. I shuffled the icebreakers already, and I'll just pick a card randomly. I'm shuffling again right now. You don't see, you can't see my hands, but I'm shuffling. Trust me.
Okay. Wow, that's impressive. You don't even have to look and
I
you
don't have to
shuffle.
look.
You're like someone that works a casino or something.
Exactly. I could. Yeah. Goodness. So I picked the card randomly, and the question is, when was the last time you were really excited? What was it about?
Honestly, 3 days ago, I've had a really unorthodox summer. I arrived in America and I kind of knew, I went through a first part of my spiritual awakening, and then I went through the second part where I realized I needed to keep healing. I mean, I don't think you ever really heal, but
Hmm.
there was a lot of work I still needed to do. The first work was kind of waking up, figuring out frequency, vibration, why I'm on earth, which was to make music, and a larger purpose, which is to raise people's consciousness. But this summer, I really have been spending the time healing my nervous system. And I've been doing energy work, spinal energetics, all the stuff I would have laughed at, 2 years ago, and a lot of psychedelics and a lot of inner work. In the last week, I really was able to really detach from my ego and my identity and this character that I've been living for a long time with all his stories and limitations. And, I was fighting for him. I was fighting for this character that I couldn't let go. And I've been really excited the past week because I've been able to part ways with him and start a new kind of phase of my life where I don't have to listen to him and his stories anymore. I can lovingly let him go.
Yeah. This question is not on the card, but I'll just love to know, like, what was that identity that you were fighting to let go of? And how was it like for you letting go of it?
It was the identity of the person that has to struggle, that saw their resilience as a virtue and saw myself as the one where things didn't really work out for them.
Hmm.
That they only worked out when I was gripping really tight and controlling it and trying to do it my way and
Hmm.
not trusting the flow of the universe, not trusting the flow of life, constantly fighting people, things, and being a victim. And I was proud of that because, I could go on podcasts when I'm doing interviews and be like, oh, look at me. I'm the guy who survived all these things. And I did survive all those things. But um, life doesn't have to be that hard. It doesn't have to have that level of entropy to it. And so I have been able to kind of ease into this new person I'm becoming, where I just kind of say, for once, I think things will work out. And I'm trusting the flow of the universe. I'm trusting the flow of life, which is something I never said. pretty much my whole life.
That's so beautiful. Thanks so much for answering that. Yeah. Surrendering to the flow of life. And I mean, I'm a Christian, so I always say like surrender it to God, let God, take control.
Hmm.
And yeah, yeah, just taking control of what you have power over and letting the rest and leaving the rest of the universe to God to do for you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. Are you ready for the next question? This is the
I'm ready.
confessions level. So the question is, what is the most humbling experience you have had?
God, this week, this month, honestly, snowboarding was the most humbling experience I've had. I mean, this sounds like a poor example, but when I tried to get up and tried to like go down the hill, I couldn't get it. And I'm someone who's used to getting things pretty fast in life.
Mm,
And so that was one of them. But honestly, on a larger level, I was sick for 18 years with a disease that robbed me of a lot of my 20s. And I was in and out of the hospitals, and no one had any solutions for me. And it was a pretty brutal time that forced me to sort of rely on myself and look inward. Talking from like a higher perspective of where I'm at now,
mm,
I'm really grateful for the experience, which is a crazy thing to say when you're taking 8 pills a day and you're sick and you think back and you in hindsight and you go like, God, that was life that was stolen from me
mm,
that no one else had to go through that I knew. But in a way, I'm so grateful for just being able to be healthy on a daily basis. That level of gratitude, when you're someone who was sick and you're healthy, and all of a sudden you're like going outside and getting a coffee, and it's so simple,
mm.
but to other people, they take it for granted. And so that whole experience really gave me a lot of mental fortitude, and I'm really grateful for that.
I'm grateful for you too. I'm grateful for life. Yeah.
Thanks.
Like you said something that, I keep on learning over and over. Sometimes we go through some things to be able to appreciate what we have. Like, we lose some things to be able to appreciate those things. And we lose them and gain them back, just appreciate them more, basically. And
Hmm.
good health is something that's, like you said, sometimes we take for granted because we're able to wake up and just do things normally. But a lot of people who would, I don't know, pay millions of US dollars to just to be healthy,
Yeah.
just to feel good about themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every time that you're kind of feeling bad for yourself because, I don't know, someone broke up with you or something that's going to pass, think of the person in the or a hospital room right now that's been there for months, that's
Mm,
just staring out the windows, that maybe lost their ability to walk. And think of those people. I mean, there's millions of them on a daily basis, and you may be them one day. And so I do a gratitude practice in the morning now, which I never did before. I kind of wake up, connect to my higher self, feel it over my heart, really, because our heart chakra is so powerful to connect to a higher power. Most people try to connect to like the divine through their head, but really our heart is kind of where everything comes from. It's our intuition. We really feel it. So I start the morning practice with connecting to unconditional love, but also gratitude. And it can be a very simple thing, like moving to America. I'm a Canadian. I moved here, and you meet these people who are making like $200,000 a year. They go on 4 nice vacations a year. They live in a luxury condo where everything's delivered to them. They've got healthcare coverage through work where they can get an appointment in a few days. The sun shines great in California. And you hear them complain so often about their life and how difficult it is. And it doesn't mean that they don't have struggles, but it's sort of like I catch myself in moments being like, do you guys know what it's like out there?
mm,
Like, do you know what people are actually going through? There are, billions of people on a daily basis that are just struggling to survive. And you live in this highly privileged country. And if you just like sit down and start writing out your gratitude, it's everything from like Wi-Fi to a roof to air
mm,
conditioning
mm,
to the ability to buy produce, to the ability to have a warm shower. You start writing it and you realize, God, I complain about a lot because your list gets to like 40 things when you're writing out just basic gratitude on a daily basis. A friend. Some people don't even have one friend. And you
mm.
just write that down. And so I've been doing that practice in the morning, and it just kind of like frames you for the whole day so much better.
It's very important to be grateful for what one has. And also, yeah, there's a lot of power that is behind gratitude. It also elevates your energy and frequency. Your frequency.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
gratitude is the highest vibration, I believe. I don't want to, I think so.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you more about, you moving to the US from Canada very soon, but I would like us to wrap up the wildcard
Yes,
session.
sorry, I'm giving you long answers.
No,
Apologize.
I love them so much.
Okay,
I have this card already pulled out. And I was like, let me ask you this question too. Yes. So, are you ready for the last question?
I'm ready.
So, the question is, are you holding onto something you need to let go of?
Yeah, I mean, that's full circle. I think it's kind of back to the earlier conversation. The old Jordan, the stories, the limitations, fighting for him, thinking I need to be him forever, or that
Mm,
I will be him forever. That's the other thing. So many times when we're like stuck in a dark place, we think that we're going to be there forever. We
mm,
think, oh, this is just my life now, and in 10 years it'll look like this. But when you look back on your life, I mean, how much changes in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
mm,
So yeah, letting go of him and his stories and what he thinks are true. We're bombarded with thoughts on a daily basis, and I'm a huge fan of Eckhart Tolle and the power of presence, the power of just on a daily basis, just sitting in presence, letting the thoughts quiet, whether it's through meditation or just going through a daily practice, and just letting those thoughts quiet, and you feel the presence. And in the presence, we find out who we actually are.
mm,
As we're actually just divine presence. We're the light of consciousness. We're peaceful. We're not meant to be all these things that are coming into our heads through social media and the news and our insecurities and our trauma. And, just even like making dinner, if you just take time to like, while you're cutting the vegetables, just look down and just absorb the moment for 2 minutes, you realize how peaceful you are. And then, of course, usually a thought will come in and start pulling you on some sort of spiral.
yeah.
But that's what I go back to now when I try to let go of old Jordan. I go back to presence.
Mm,
And in the presence is the stillness and the expansiveness of who we are. And it's really beautiful, but it is difficult to get there, when on a daily basis when we have so many things going on, people relying on us, jobs, etc. But that's the default state. And sometimes just taking a deep breath, one or two deep breaths right into the heart,
mm,
just resets your whole experience on earth.
mm. Yeah, that's very true. Like being present. Yeah, there's nothing as important as being in the now. Yeah, right now in the present. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I'm so happy, like you talked about that because it's something that we all go through. I could relate to that too. Different thoughts going through our minds, and there are thousand things I want to do, and we're thinking about the past, and we're thinking about the future. And presently doing something, and we're like everywhere at the same time, and actually nowhere basically, and that could lead to a lot of frustration, I believe, in our
Well,
lives.
and also like so much of our like depression and anxiety is just traveling to the past or the future from the
Mm,
present moment, right?
mm,
Where our anxiety is us thinking like, oh, if I don't do this in 6 months, this is going to happen. But we don't even know if that's going to happen. So we, instead of living in the now, we go to that point and then we induce anxiety. And then we go, why am I so anxious? It's like, because you and I are just having a conversation right now. This is all that matters to me in this moment. I'm not
mm,
focused on other places. If I did start to go, I would lose concentration. I would be off kilter. So there's so much of just like staying here in this. And when you're with people, that includes, if you're in a room with people, don't look at your cell phone. Because what you're
mm.
really doing if you look at your cell phone when you're hanging out with someone is saying, hey, you're not enough right now. Right?
Sure.
If you're in a group of people and they're talking to you and then they're like looking at their phone, they're going, maybe subconsciously, but they're looking at their phone saying like, what else is interesting? What else
Mm.
is there a video? Is there a news article? Is there a social media post that I need to see? And it sends an indirect message to the person you're hanging out with, but like, you're not enough. You're not giving me enough right now. This present moment is not enough for me. And I think a lot of people do it, but they don't realize like how it can feel to the other person.
That's very true. Wow, you're speaking with so much wisdom right now. I'm very curious to learn about the journey that you went through. Like you went on a journey that acted or that still acts as a doorway to clarity for you, and that also felt like past life memory also for you. So I would like you to take us back to that moment. What did you experience? How did it shift the way that you saw yourself and your life?
So for nearly my whole life, I was an unconscious human being. I didn't believe in anything. I wouldn't say I was spiritual. I wasn't religious. I just sort of believed I was here by random chance,
Mm,
which in retrospect sounds crazy, but I thought I was here by random chance. And I thought that, when you die and that's it. And you fade to black. And about a year and a half ago, it was at kind of the end of COVID hysteria. Everything had kind of ended. And I had a dog that I loved so much, and he ended up getting bone cancer and passing away. And when it happened, it was also around the same time where I had a disease, like I mentioned, for 18 years that was coming back, and it was getting worse. And the doctors had said to me, I think we have to do surgery on you. And I think you're going to have to be on these really strong medications. And it was the very first time in my life where I sort of heard a voice, higher self, divine, God, whatever it was, kind of was talking to me and said, that's not really in the plan. And I thought I was going a little crazy when I heard it because I was not connected to anything before. So I was like, am I schizophrenic? Like, what am I hearing right now? And I just said to the doctor, no, I'll be okay. I'll be fine. And he looked at me like, I've heard a million patients say that they're going to be fine and then they're not fine. Like, doctors can be very, dogmatic, let's say. And I just refused to kind of listen to what he was saying. And then I went home and I looked into a lot of natural healing and consciousness work. And I was able to essentially shift and this is really crucial for people in their life, whatever they want to achieve. I was able to shift my state of being. I was able to no longer identify with the person who was sick. I didn't go on forums. I didn't say I was sick. I walked around almost with a bit of delusion, kind of saying like, I'm healed.
Mm.
And it's not my story anymore. And as I said that over and over and embodied that, the disease that had plagued me for 18 years went away. And it was almost like a miracle moment. Uh, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. What else am I capable of? What else don't I know about life and the way that reality works and quantum mechanics? And I ended up going on this little journey to Asia. I was in Thailand, which I love. And then I went to Bali. And I was at a men's retreat in the mountains, and it was really cool. It was like for entrepreneurs, and we're working out in the mountains. And a friend of mine said, hey, we should go to Ubud. There's a healing center, and I think we should, I think you should join me. And I was kind of like, it's not really my thing, but I'll come. And I went, and I went in there, and I said to the woman at the front desk, what should I do? There was a million different things you could do, sound healing, and you could do, special dancing and meditation and all kinds of things. She said, oh, you should go to Dina. And I said, okay. So I went to this woman in a tent, and it's like raining. I remember it vividly. It's like probably the most profound moment of my life. And I walked in, and she said, oh, you're here for the music. And I was like, what? And she's like, the music,
Mm.
it's time for you to make music now. And at this point, I've made no music. I've not been a singer. I didn't even know if I could really sing properly. I tried to songwrite, but I wasn't good at it at all. I had no musical background, nothing. And she said to me, yeah, you were a singer in your past life. You were a famous singer, and you couldn't handle it from the fame and the pressure and the people, etc. So you took your own life. When she said it, instead of me being like, oh, this woman's crazy, or like, is she on drugs? There was a part of me that knew she was right, which is strange because if you don't believe in anything, you're going like, what? And she said, yeah, you had to go through a lot of trials and tribulations and things in life to get to this point. But now everything's lined up perfectly in your path for you to go do this. And I came back every day for about a week. I would go back to my hotel, and then I'd come back to the place, and we'd do, inner child work. We'd do this tapping thing. I don't know if people are familiar with it. I believe it's called EFT, where you sort of tap your meridian zones and talk to yourself. We did affirmations. We did sound healing. We did herbs. Like, we tried all these different things. And at the end of the week, it was like my brain cracked open. And suddenly I started to not just see myself, but I started to see reality way differently. I would see synchronicities. Someone would mention something, and then I'd see it in my reality. I would think of people, and they would text me. And I was just connected more to the world and the quantum and God and just everything. I was just completely immersed in it in a way that I hadn't before. Before, I was just living in my selfish, egoic mind, like just going through, just not really believing in anything. And I got back to Canada. I called my mom. I said, I'm going to go make an album now. And my mom's thinking like, sure you are. Good luck. Have you ever made an album? Do you know how hard it is? So she was kind of stunned, and my stepdad, they were kind of stunned. And I was like, I couldn't explain it to people. I just was like, I can't explain it to anyone. And I don't even care if people think I'm crazy or they laugh at me. But I just feel drawn to this in a way that I'd never been drawn to anything before. I've done a million things. I was on TV, radio, I had a podcast,
Mm.
I own a marketing firm. Like I had done a bunch of things that were satisfying to a degree, but nothing that lit me up with this burning desire like this. And I contacted a producer I was working with. I was like, hey, we got 3 weeks. Let's make an EP album, 5 songs. And I had this concept for it. And we went to the studio. And the craziest thing is, right when we went into the studio, I immediately felt this deja vu, like
Ooh.
I'd been there before. And I
Yeah.
was thinking of Dina saying, like, oh, you were a famous musician, you've done this before. And I
Mm.
walked into this studio and I should have been like so nervous or just confused or like, is this going to work out? Am I wasting money?
Mm.
And I just was like so confident. I walked in, I was at home, I was sitting on the couches, I started singing better, my voice opened up. Um, and then what the craziest thing which happened to me, which still to this day freaks me out, but it happens to me all the time now, is I was sitting on my computer and my producer was playing some chords and a song we had kind of thought about. And I just started typing. And as I was typing, thoughts immediately shut down. My heart started glowing in this like really beautiful, warm way. And I locked into what some people call tunnel vision, where nothing matters, and it was almost like everything slowed down. The particles and the matter just really slowed down. And in probably 15 minutes, I wrote an entire song,
Wow.
all the words, the melody. It just came out of me like an out of body experience. It was just like radiating out of me. And I remember when I finished, I just sat there kind of breathing like, what the hell was that? It was like a channeling experience. It was like I was filled with it in a way that I couldn't explain. Even my producer was completely like, I've never seen this before, right? He's worked with tons of artists. So then we worked on that song, we put it together. I was very comfortable. I was producing, I was directing. I was like so happy. It was like I was home again.
Mm.
And then it was time to write the second song. And I did the same thing. We were kind of putting through the song. And then I remember I was going for a jog by the beach and I was just kind of walking. And then all of a sudden it was like the same thing. And it's happened to me tons of times since. The lyrics and this melody just boom, right in my head. And immediately I'm running to my iPhone, like trying to like sing into it, trying to get the melody until I lose it. And we released the first album, and there's like 400 people listening the first month. More than I would have thought. And since then, I've done 20 songs, and I'm at 5 million streams. I've got 3 songs on the radio, and so I've decided to just go for it, just go for it on a big scale because I believe I can, and I feel like it's my path and my
Mm.
purpose.
If you believe you can, you can. I love that
Right.
so much. Yes, yes. Thank you so much for sharing. I enjoyed the way you shared how you came about what you do right now. For me, it's like sharing a means of discovering your purpose in life, trying a lot of things, but then you experience something, a key moment in your life, and then you realize, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. Something we're not even planning for before. You're not doing before. You're like, okay, life is telling you, no, go in this different direction, and you're on it
Hmm.
right now.
Yeah, and feeling this like sense of peace and alacrity, and just feeling like it's been a perfect experience ever since I
Mm.
started making music. When you're on your path, sometimes in life we force things, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think this is it. I better do this. I better meet this person. And we're always like forcing, we're going out there in reality and trying to make it work. The way
Mm.
that I made music in the past year or so is every synchronicity, every coincidence has been perfect.
Mm.
The people that I met, the perfect producers, the perfect sound, it just all lined up perfectly. We'd be making a song and we'd be like, God, we need some women, female vocals on this. And then randomly an hour later, a random woman would walk into the studio that was like an intern and she'd be like, I can do it. And compared to these other parts of my life that were so tumultuous, all of a sudden I'm doing this thing and I'm loving it and it's my highest joy. But then also everything's lining up perfectly at the same time.
Mm.
And I don't have to do anything. It's like I'm watching the movie, but I'm just sitting back for the first time. And it's so funny because, the lack of resistance and the detachment from trying to control it and trying to make it happen. The paradox is like, that's what brings it to you.
Mm.
If you don't care, if you don't need it, if you're not desperately trying to cling to it in life, the energy just flows to you, flows from you and flows to you. And that's been the biggest lesson I've learned in all this is just to enjoy the ride.
Yes. Yeah. Enjoy the ride. I mean, you're making me remember something that I've been learning so far. Um, and that is, energy. So emotion is energy emotion or something like
Mm,
that. Yeah. And I was just, I mean, maybe using that as an analogy here, basically, it's like, when you hold on to it so tightly, you get choked up. But once you allow it to go, when you let it go, it flows basically, like your
yeah.
emotions, your feelings, and the inspirations, the talent that you are supposed to use to for your purpose in life just basically flows, and things start coming out, start working out on their own, basically, because they're
Hmm.
emotion. Yeah, because the energy is emotion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's even, I was talking to ChatGPT about this yesterday, is so many times when we're manifesting or we want things to happen in life, the way that reality works is on a quantum level is that, everything exists in infinite states, right? Of visibility and invisibility. So, you know, at our core, we're shifting to the reality in which it already exists. And on a quantum level, so many people, what they do is like, and this is like the biggest mistake ever, is they sit and they try to make it happen. So they're like, okay, I want this thing in life. I want this house. I want this car, and they go and they do the tapping and the 1,000 affirmations. You've probably seen these YouTube videos. One girl will say, I want to be on a magazine cover. So I did affirmations 10,000 times on a Saturday. But
Mm.
all they're trying to do is embody the new reality and live in the new reality. But if it's already yours in the other reality and it's coming to you, then that desperate energy blocks it
Yeah.
because you're doing the behavior of someone who doesn't have it. If you just relax into your natural state, which is calm, expansive, unconditional love in your heart, and you relax in any sort of meditation or even just breathing for 10 minutes, that's what allows it to come to you. It's the one that doesn't believe in the power of the divine, the one that basically sits back and is checking their social media every 10 minutes going, where is it? Where is it? I'm supposed to have this thing. I was
Mm.
doing these affirmations. I was trying to make it work. And it's like, yeah, that's your problem. That is the signal that you're actually emitting to the quantum field, which is lack,
Mm.
which is one who does not have it. And if you actually, some people will say, I really wanted to find a partner in life. And the second I stopped looking, you've heard this a million times. The second I
Yeah.
stopped looking, they came into my life. And it's like, of course they did. Because you no longer were emitting the signal of someone who needs it, who desperately wants love, who will do anything for love, who will accept subpar love. You were the one who they almost gave up. They gave up and they surrendered. And in that surrender and detachment, ironically, is exactly where you'll find what you want.
Yes. Yeah. I like to learn this from you also, like from your experiences. Like, please correct me if I'm wrong. So, all of this is like, tapping into an altered state of consciousness. Is that right? Ah, okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. So how did you use that for healing? Like, you were sick for 18 years of your life, and then you got healed when you started, leaning into altered states of consciousness. So I'd like to learn how that experience, guided your healing process, and if there's some things you could, some strategies or tools you could teach us, like wisdom that you could share with us on that, that would be so great.
Yeah. So basically, reality is, we know nowadays is that reality is made up of atoms, which are 99.9% empty space.
Mm.
So the reality that we think is solid, I almost hit my wall when I said that, like kind of knocked on it. But the reality we think is solid is not solid. The only reason it feels solid is because its electromagnetic fields bouncing up against each other. But we know now that everything is energy. So what happens is basically we know now from people can look up like the double slit experiment or the Nobel Prize in 2022. We know that basically energy, electrons, they kind of travel in waves of possibility. And essentially, what they do is in the double slit experiment, they showed that when the particles were just moving naturally, they were just going like this. But the second someone looked at them, they started to collapse into a reality. And so, to bring about a different life, let's say healing, for example, and this is a lot of what like Joe Dispenza teaches in his work, you need to embody the new state of someone who's healed. And when you're sick, it's very difficult to do that because
mm,
you are very sick. It's easy. You're laying in your bed with a headache and maybe you're
mm,
vomiting and there's no point in kind of trying to get out of it. But you have to remember, and this is how I healed myself. We are the awareness and the spirit behind the human avatar. We are not the human avatar. And the more we identify with the human avatar and the body and even the mind, for that matter, we will stay in their story. So when I was healing my colitis, I just essentially continued to visualize and embody a state of a person who was healed no matter what my senses picked up in the 3D reality in front of me. So, a true creator, a true master creator of reality, the true enlightened individuals, they know that what's in front of you, this reality that you're viewing right now, this is just the residual past of all your stories and your beliefs and what you bought into. But it's fluid, it's made of particles and it's fluid and it will change and it's always changing and it's changing billions of times a second. You're shifting to new realities billion times a second. So what you do is to move into your dream reality. All you really do is feel it in your heart of what you want. And then the power of surrendering essentially and embodying the new reality. So for me, it was just, I decided because I saw my friend do this. I decided that I was healed. I lived like I was healed. I no longer talked about being healed. And as I did that, I embodied the type of life of a person who was healed. And anytime that evidence would come up, a doctor would say, "Hey, did you try that new medication?" Or someone would bring up something to me, or even I would have physical symptoms. I just stayed in total confidence of knowing that I was moving to the new reality, that the particles were shifting, and that it didn't matter and it didn't affect me. And I've done the same thing with music. The way I've been able to grow my account and my Spotify and Apple Music and all this stuff is largely, even when the numbers go down, I ignore it. I don't buy into that story. It's what you said, energy and motion. Your numbers go down and you look to the external reality for validation instead of internally, you will buy into the story that's in front of you and you'll go even more down because you go, the numbers are going down. Oh my God, I'm not doing great. My thing's not going to work out, blah, blah, blah.
mm,
Instead of essentially resting into the heart space, resting into who we are and knowing that, okay, law of the universe, polarity, ups and downs, sitting into your heart and saying, no, 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 I create my own reality and knowing that you're moving towards the reality where the numbers go up or where your dream life comes in front of you.
mm.
So, in short, we're much more powerful than we're led to believe. And we are capable of so much more than we're led to believe. And I have tons of people who have been through similar experiences to me, where they've cured illnesses, where they've brought dream partners, dream careers into their life. I've just seen it in the past 2 years with launching a music career from nowhere, channeling songs, and essentially curing my illness. And I'm starting to wonder, like, what else can I do at this point, and what else can we all do?
Yeah, I think the possibilities are endless, basically.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, unlimited possibilities once you believe in it.
Yeah, but it's hard to do because we're so conditioned a certain way. We're
Mm,
so conditioned to we grow up, we go through a school system which conditions us a certain way. And some people they go through their whole life, they don't question anything. But because I was able to cure my illness, I started kind of doing this whole process of like, what else is it true? What else could I do? And what you mentioned about higher consciousness, what else could I question? What else could I be wrong about? Can I let my ego go? Can I let the stories that I thought I was so right about, and being okay with not being right or even fighting with people? Everyone's living in their own individual realities, literally.
mm,
So why are you fighting with them about their beliefs? Why aren't you finding a way to love them and connect with them? And so that's what I've moved away from even making music is like people want to go like debate about Donald Trump or like anything. And I'm like, I'm just not in this vibration anymore. I just don't really see a lot of utility in it.
mm. Yeah, yeah. And I'd just like to know, like, your music. Do you use your music in some ways to help people increase their energy level or vibration also?
Yeah, I infuse a lot of my music with solfeggio and people call them binaural beats, but you'll hear like specifically with my song Vultures, the way the song starts is sort of this kind of sound that's very healing. And yeah, I talk about these concepts in certain ways in the songs, but I also like don't want to. I also have to make songs relatable.
Mm,
So you can't if people are not into these things, you don't want to be overwhelming or preachy. So I talk about some of this stuff, and I'm going to do it more on the upcoming album. sort of continuing to evolve and go through this like spiritual awakening of why I'm on earth, what am I, past lives, connecting with that and all that. And as I do in the next album, as I do that, I think I'm just going to keep documenting it in a way because it's just super interesting for people. But I largely write about my life and I largely write about the lives of the people around me.
Mm.
So not necessarily like a song that I put out isn't necessarily about something that happened to me. It may just be having a conversation with a friend over dinner. But I really do believe in like not really explaining the songs to a degree what they're about because for everyone, the songs have double meaning. You know, someone will say, "Oh, I listened to that song, and for me, it reminded me of this." And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, "That's not what I wrote it about." But that's what's so cool about art is that you have the ability to interpret it in any manner that you want.
That's true. Well, I was just asking that because maybe I was supposed to ask more about this because I know you have a very, you've leaned into the altered state of consciousness and spiritual person, basically, like very spiritual. So I was just trying to find out how music production process is like for you, because I believe it's more than just going to the studio and recording something. I'm sure it's deeper than just that, basically.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the way I work is I do work with producers because, you know, I don't have like a big musical background, but I'm very much involved in the soundscape design, so how the song will sound. Usually what will happen is like anything in life, back to the heart, intuition's everything. So I'll feel the urge to make a song. Usually sometimes it will come to me in the shower. I get a lot of inspiration, and I think it's because Lady Gaga also said this. I think it's because when you're in the shower, you're not thinking, right? You're not in your head. You're not in your human mind. You're just shampooing your hair. You're kind of not really paying attention. And that's when inspiration like comes to us from a higher power or, you know, the consciousness field. So, usually I'll get an idea for a song. Sometimes I'll get a whole chorus at once. Like I'll just be shampooing my hair and the whole chorus will come and I run out of the shower naked like a crazy person like trying to find my iPhone and like singing. You know, my phone is like 400 to 500 little voice notes of
Wow.
just ideas, right? So it's just, you know,
Mm,
I'll be, and most of them are terrible, but they're just ideas. They come to you, right?
mm,
And then what I do is I tend to kind of sit back, okay, what's this song about? And then what I'll do is I listen to tons of music. I'll try to kind of develop the vibe of the song. You know, sometimes we use samples and stuff, but sort of elements I like. Hey, I want to start with a choir. Hey, I think it should be guitar. Hey, I think that this should be the vibe of it. And then I sit down with the producer and we kind of develop it together. I prefer sitting in person and doing it rather than over the internet. And we'll kind of just put it together. And to me, that's the most fun thing because you're trying different sounds and you're just, you know, what happened is this weird connection. A lot of artists that talk about this. When you go in the studio, there's something that happens where your brains all link up
mm.
in a way that is out of body and they'll think of something, you'll think of something, you'll think of it at the exact same moment. They'll say something like, "Hey, what about if we do," and you'll go, "Do this," and you're completely connected, right? And it
Wow.
happens constantly in the studio. Like it's this feverish experience where like you're just linked up, your brains are like magnets to each other. And and I love that process of developing the song. And then usually I'll kind of sit back with the track and I do a lot of the writing myself. So I don't do traditional writing. Some people will sit down at a piano and just kind of like try to work it out.
Mm,
I don't like that. I like to do it the spiritual way is I'll do breath work. I'll get my nervous system really calm and regulated. And then I'll get into an altered state of consciousness where essentially my thoughts stop. So no more thoughts, no ideas, no questioning anything, just a very quiet mind, a very connected mind. And I'll really feel it into my heart. And then at that point, if I've worked really hard on that, maybe 30 minutes, I will sometimes just turn on the track and all the words and all the melodies will just receive in 10 minutes. I mean, I've written several of my songs, two of them that are on the radio in like less than 20 minutes.
wow.
But when I say I wrote them, I
Mm,
mean I connected to infinite intelligence, perhaps because time's not real, everything's now. Perhaps I connected to the future version of myself that already had the song
mm,
and I sort of received it in the now. I don't know, but I can tell you that like sometimes I'll be writing the lyrics like this really feverishly, and then I'll look back at them and I'll be like, I don't even remember writing that.
mm,
It was like I didn't write it. It was like I just received it And that's been my process. I like to pace around my apartment. Sometimes I like to smoke a little weed and I just like to like feel it. I like to just get into the flow and feel the frequency of what I'm doing. That's my way. Some people, they write different ways, but for me, that's the way I can write really quickly. And honestly, if I combine it with some sort of psychedelics, like mushrooms, one time I did mushrooms and I wrote basically an album in like a week.
Oh.
It tends to supercharge it, but obviously you can't just, take mushrooms all the time.
Mm. Whereas tap into your higher self, tap into like, you know, increasing your frequency basically takes you to realms that makes you more than just a normal human being. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't even think I don't think I'm that special. I
Yeah.
honestly think that we all have the ability to do this. Perhaps I have an innate gift with music because of a past life. And perhaps I have the ability to decode frequencies or figure them out in some degree. But I think we all have innate gifts in us. And I think the problem that we run into is actually the human mind. It's so limited. They call it the human monkey mind. It's mad about fights from 2 weeks ago. It's like, it's not thinking logically, but when you calm that mind, when you shut off that mind and you get to the present moment, things just come to you. They're just sent to you. And I think no matter what you're doing, any creative pursuit, I always tell people your problem is your thinking. And that sounds crazy. It's like, well, I gotta think I'm a human. But it's
Exactly.
like, but you don't. You actually, the ego is your problem. The mind is your problem. Get into the heart, get into the peace, and you'll see that things will just arrive in front of you. If I've ever run into anything in my life where I don't have the answer, I'm moving to LA, so I'm trying to figure out properties and stuff. I always do the same thing. I go back to my heart. I breathe into it. I feel the glow. I feel the elation. I feel just my connection and the peace, my default state. And I feel that really deeply. And I just sort of say, like, can I have the answer to this? And within 20 minutes, it almost always comes to me.
Mm.
And I think about trying to do it the other way, which is the human mind of looking around and calling people and calling friends and anxiety. There's so much power in that presence. There's so much power in feeling your heart and realizing your capabilities. And so I tell people to do that, no matter if it's music or anything else.
Yeah. Yes. They could be limiting sometimes. Yes.
Hmm.
And talking about music, I would like us to stay in that because you mentioned something about, when you went to Bali, I believe, and you went to the mountains. Yes. The woman asked you if you wanted to experience sound healing. So I was like, oh, okay. Music, you do music right now and sound healing. Can you shine some light on what sound healing means and how you've embraced it also and your experiences from the practice of sound healing?
So my understanding is sound healing, the idea behind it is we have different energy centers in our body, chakras, throat chakra, heart chakra, etc. And they're all kind of activated by different frequencies. Whenever I do any sort of meditation where I try to kind of get in tune with my heart, I like to
Mm,
listen to 528 solfeggio frequencies. I find that's the one that opens the heart chakra. So the idea behind the different sound healing is that each area of your body, we want energy to flow naturally through our body, and each energy is on a different frequency. And so when you go and you lay there in a calm state, they play different sound bowls. And as they play them, certain areas of your body almost feel like they're vibrating and lighting up.
mm,
And if you think about it like this, you can take water. Some people have done these experiments. You take water and you can play sound and you can see how the water gets in a certain pattern. And similar to like tuning forks, if you hit one tuning fork, the other tuning fork close by will line up and you'll see them both vibrate together because they're the same frequency. So the idea is that, our bodies are 70% water. So it's the same sort of concept. If we want to get things in alignment, we essentially lay there in a calm state. And as they play these frequencies, sort of you get a more harmonious flow of energy through the body. And I find you sort of will get an altered state of consciousness, vibration. Sometimes some people will cry, they'll release trauma, but you get a nice energetic flow through the body.
mm,
And if I feel any sort of ailment coming on, I tend to do that as well. But my absolute favorite is to listen to 528 hertz frequency, feel my heart glowing, feel my heart opening. And then I find I can manifest things really quickly within a few days if I ask for them in that pure state. if I ask for them to come into my life from that, I'm kind of amazed at this point at how well it works. So that's kind of my go-to. And you can find them on Spotify. Just search 512 Solfeggio.
You just listen to them with your AirPods, for example.
Yeah. I like that more than any guided meditations. I find guided meditations aren't really for me. Because they kind of knock me out of a state. If the person's talking a certain way, I find it alters me. But I like, yeah, that's what I do. I do that pretty much every day. 528 hertz, you'll feel the heart open.
Mm.
And it's just like, I mean, people can find them, but it's just a calming sound. And I use some of them in my songs as well.
Oh, you use them in your songs too. Okay.
Yeah. But just subtly because I still want to make a good pop song. So
Mm,
I kind of infuse them to a degree, but they're healing. They're healing. And so I was like, wow, it'd be so cool if someone's listening to my song and
mm.
also receiving a healing frequency at the same time.
Oh, yeah. That's good. Thanks so much for sharing that.
Um,
528 Hertz. I'll go check that out and see. I'm very curious
I think you'll
to
find it really
experience it.
calming.
Mm,
Try it even when you're walking around or driving around, or instead of listening to music, try to just listen to the solfeggio and you'll feel you're so calm after like 10 minutes of listening to that. Because a lot of people with music, they'll listen to songs, certain kind of music, and if the themes are anger, if
mm,
the themes are violence, if the themes are whatever, any low vibration emotion, guilt, shame, you will absorb that. You will become that. You will match that.
mm.
And so I tell people not just a mental diet, but a music diet. It's like watch the type of music that you're listening to because it will alter the current state that you're in.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jordan. I've learned so much from you. And from our conversation so far, I've gotten to realize how your journey is deeply rooted in authenticity and emotional courage also, to do everything that you're doing right now. So I'd just like to know, in this day and age that we live in, how do you navigate being open about your pain, about your past, about your transformation, especially in a world that often, rewards perfection over honesty?
I don't know if there's any calculated efforts behind it. I think it's always just kind of been who I am. I find I can only live my life as one person. I'm sure you have people in your life where you meet them and they're different with their parents and they are with their friends. They're different with their colleagues. I find that extremely exhausting to have to wear different masks and be different people. So I've always, much to my detriment at times, I've always just kind of been one person. And that is honest. And I find a lot of people hold a lot of pain and problems because they're so scared to be the person they're meant to be. And the number one regret of the dying when they interview them is I lived a life that wasn't true to me. I lived a life
Mm,
for other people. And
mm,
so I don't really care that much about what comes out of it. I think if you're just yourself, then eventually certain people will fall out of your life and it's meant to be. And then other people will come into your life. But the people that eventually where you end up with them, they love you for who you are and you don't have to be fake around them or wear a mask or any of
mm,
that. So my whole default state is like, I'll just be who I am and I'll see who shows up and I'll see who leaves, romantically, platonically, whatever it is.
mm,
That's all meant to be. And also, I think there's not just I don't just want to make music. I think my secondary mission on earth, and I'm pretty clear about it, and I've received it through meditation, is I'm here to raise people's consciousness, but I'm also here to teach them resilience.
mm,
There are many times in my life, friends leaving, my dad leaving, being sick. There's many times in my life where I could have given up. I could have succumbed to an addiction. I could have gone down dark paths, but I think the fact that I didn't give up and I went out there and I still made a lot of my dreams happen,
mm.
I hope that in some ways that could inspire a person to think that they could do it too.
Yeah, I
And I'm
believe.
here to say, you can.
Mm,
I don't believe in buying into victimhood anymore for people. I don't believe in telling them that because of X, Y, and Z, they can't do it. I think once you start doing that, you're in trouble. And so I tell people, hey, I can only speak about my own experience, but I've gone through all this stuff and I'm still standing and happier than I was 5 years ago.
mm,
So I'm kind of clear about my mission on earth. I'm kind of clear about why I came here. And I don't want anyone to like follow me or be interested in my path if at the same time they want me to be something else. A lot of people in life, they want you to be what they need for them
mm,
and they try to mold you into something that's palatable for them. And you'll see that with celebrities sometimes is people will say, I really like her music, but like I don't like, this and she's doing this. And I try to like her music, but it's like, well, the music's separate. And this parasocial relationship you have with, say, women with Taylor Swift, it's like, it's not about you. It's not about, they get to be whoever they want. And it's about the way you can't force people to need to be what you need to be. And so all we can do is stand in who we are and our truth. And we can just be what feels natural to us on a daily basis. And it's so freeing and liberating. And my friend will say, oh, this person doesn't like you. I'm like, cool. I mean, I'm untouched by it.
Mm.
Because am I supposed to hear that and then start to alter my behavior and alter the person that I am and what's at my core? No, because this person loves me and that's fine. And that's that's life. So I like being this way. I like inadvertently getting into problems, but I feel free. I feel liberated. And I've been this way, honestly, since I was like very young.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, I would like to learn from that, second purpose of your resilience. Like, if there's one thing you would like to leave our listeners with and myself with, basically about resilience, what would that be?
When there's a saying, I believe it's Winston Churchill, and it's when you're going through hell, walk faster. And it's about the fact that forward inertia when you're going through any sort of pain or problems in life, you lose a dog, you lose a family member, you break up. I think there's a short period you should allow yourself to feel it. I'm not saying to, betray your emotions. I think when you go through something, you should feel it. But, I used to have this thing where I allowed myself always a weekend. That was always my rule. If someone betrayed me, I had a business partner that betrayed me. I said, I'm going to give myself a weekend to have a pity party for myself.
Mm.
I'm going to be sad because I'm not going to run away from my emotions, because whatever you run away from is going to pop up again if you suppress it, right? You can't just keep suppressing your anger and your sadness. Eventually it'll pop up in really ugly ways. So I'd allow myself to feel it. I'd allow myself to wallow in it. But then I'd say, come Monday morning, I'm moving forward. I'm moving past it and I'm integrating it. And that's what I tell people to do is don't spend months, years in the sadness, in the darkness, because it will just continue to expand. Feel what you're going through. It's real. It happened to you. Integrate the emotions, integrate the lessons. And then also on a spiritual level, try to look at everything that happened to you, try to find the good in it. And I can say that as someone who's had a pretty grueling life, I can find the good in being in the hospital. I can find the good in my dad abandoning my family when I was 23. I can find the good in that. And it sounds crazy to people, but from a higher level, there are always lessons. And so if you can frame your past and the things that happened to you as they served you, they created from that, you became the person you are today. And look at you now. Look how strong you are. Look how motivated you are. Look how much gratitude you have. Would you have had that without the contrast? Not
Yeah.
necessarily.
Mm.
If you just came to Earth and you were rich and you found the love of your life when you were 18 and your dream career and everything was great, everything was easy, would there be any contrast? Would there be any growth? Would there be lessons? Would there be an evolution of the soul?
Mm.
And it's so interesting to me because now to look back and see how those things built me into the person I am today, I'm grateful for what were the lowest points of my life, let's say. I'm grateful for what that I learned from that. And
Mm.
so that's what I'd say to people is like, try to, even in the tears, even in the anger, try to see the beauty, try to see how it served you. And it's possible. And then put your shoes on and keep walking through the fire, keep walking through the moments. And as you walk and as you push and as you believe in yourself and as you let go of the stories and the pain, you'll start to move towards the light. And you'll see more and more light and you'll keep going. And then eventually it'll be 2 years ago and you'll think of that person that broke your heart that you thought you were going to spend your life with.
Mm.
And you'll be like, God, that was not meant to be. I don't even think about them anymore.
Yeah.
But at the time, you were like, I don't think I can go on. It always gets better. It always clears. The clouds always clear. You just have to hold on and believe. And you're much stronger than you think you are.
Oh, yes. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, you're much stronger than you think you are, or more than what you believe you could. be, or as strong as you could be. A last question that I would like to ask, because a lot of people go through this also, especially, in their alien journey and maybe transformation journey also. That's dealing with, shame. And you talked about it very briefly earlier. So I'd just like to learn from you, like, how do we deal with shame even though we are on our alien journey already, on the alien path, walking too fast through hell, basically. How do you deal with, those moments of shame that, that could just seep in from time to time?
We deal with it by knowing that a lot of these low vibration emotions are not real. They're
Mm,
just things that we've concocted up. We know from kind of quantum mechanics and some of the spiritual teachings that every moment is new. We are recreating every new present moment billions of times. We're shifting to new realities, but we're actually recreating the past from the present moment. And that's why some people on YouTube have been able to like revise their past because they revise it from the point of the present because it's a long thing, but largely, I would say the first thing I would say is a lot of shame is rooted in thinking that people are thinking about you a lot more than they are, and they're not. People have their own stuff going on, they have their own lives. We think that we made a mistake and we were publicly humiliated, let's say.
mm,
And we think that people are dwelling about it and gossiping about it, and they're probably not. I mean, if you think about the amount of time that a person talks about their favorite celebrity or favorite music artist, it may be like once a week. So if you think that they're then talking about you once a week, probably not. So it's kind of the first step is really just getting over yourself,
mm,
thinking that you're more important than you are, thinking about other people are dwelling about your life and thinking about you. And that's
mm,
what we hold on to shame. Oh my God, I behaved in a certain way. I'm a bad person, people are thinking about me. Just the first step is just to think about no, people are really not thinking about you as often as you think. And you kind of just have to let that go. And the second thing I would say is the way you counter shame is radical self-disclosure. That's what I did with my first podcast. You essentially put everything out there. You take the things that you're so ashamed about that you're holding inside of you, that you're holding in your body, your fascia, your trauma, and you just put them out there. And it's scary at first. It's like jumping off a cliff, right?
mm,
But you realize that once you do it, you release it and you realize it was never as bad as you thought. It's like that job interview that you think is going to be so brutal and you keep telling yourself it's going to be hard and you keep telling yourself it's going to be difficult. But if you tell yourself that it's going to be great and you tell yourself like it's fine, that's what ends up happening. And it's the same sort of thing with shame. If you tell yourself that it's a big deal, if you
mm,
tell yourself that people care about shame, then you'll start to realize that like that's just the story you've told yourself. And it's time to tell yourself a different story. And that's where I come from with that. And also, I just kind of at this point, I know I'm on earth for a limited amount of time. I don't know what I did in my past lives. I could have done much worse things. Have peace. And also, it is an ephemeral experience that I'm enjoying. And I see it as an experience. I see life as an experience. Then I believe I will do thousands of more times. And I believe I've done it thousands of times before. And so I just try to have fun with it. And I don't get bogged down by shame. I try to behave like a 7-year-old. You ever watch a 7-year-old? They don't have an unconscious mind that's ruining their day.
uh,
They just play. They say, I'm a princess today, and they get to go be a princess. And they don't worry about who thinks that they're a princess or that they're not a princess or that the last time they were a princess this happened or
mm,
if that's realistic. They play. And as we get older, we lose the ability to play. And so I try to just play. I try to enjoy life and be silly. And I try to live in an armored cocoon where like this person doesn't like me, this person doesn't want to date me. I'm fine. You'll always be fine, right?
mm, mm.
You'll always be okay. It's just you have to build that self-reliance and you have to build that cocoon around you to say, I'm untouchable. And when you get there, then the peace comes over you.
Yeah. Wow. Jordan, I've learned so much from you. I am untouchable and building a
You're
cocoon.
untouchable. You're
I'm
absolutely
untouchable,
untouchable.
exactly.
You're going to
It
say
was
that today in the mirror. I'm
exactly,
untouchable.
exactly. Mirror talk, basically. I'm telling myself, why brushing my teeth, hey, Toby, you're untouchable.
Honestly, it's true. You are untouchable. I mean, just don't tell yourself the other stories.
Mm,
Tell yourself a new story from every moment. Wake up tomorrow or whenever, just say, I'm going to tell myself a different story today.
mm,
I'm going to wake up and say, just try it. Honestly, for 3 days, I try this experiment. You wake up and you go, today's going to be an amazing day. what do? We wake up, we look at our cell phone, there's like emails, texts. Oh, I have to go through this thing today. Immediately, you're starting the day in a bad state of consciousness.
Yeah, of course.
Try and wake up and go, God, I'm so grateful. Today, something amazing is going to happen to me today. And every time I said that, like something
Mhm.
actually amazing does happen. So,
Yeah.
little tip for you.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. Well, I enjoy speaking so much with you, but I'm sure there are a lot of other people out there who still want to ask more questions, maybe connect with you, get to know more about your work. What's the best way to do this? What's the best way to work with you, to connect with you?
So if they want to follow me on Instagram, it's Jordan J Power on Instagram. And if you want to listen to my music, it's Jordan Power on all platforms: Apple, Spotify, Deezer, Amazon. I don't remember all the names, but wherever you get your music, it's just Jordan Power. And make sure you hit the follow button on those platforms. My producer told me I'm supposed to do that. So if you're listening on the platform, hit the follow or plus button at the top.
Yeah.
And I do have a TikTok where I post kind of comedy videos that are unrelated to this conversation. But
Mm.
if that's what people want, I believe I don't really run, I send it to the guy and he posts them. I believe it's Jordan Power Talks and Jordan J Power on TikTok.
On TikTok. Awesome.
So
Yes. So I'll place some of this information in the show note of this episode. So I encourage everyone out there, to connect with you on whatever platform, is suitable for them. Thank you so much, Jordan. It has been a great privilege speaking with you and learning from your journey and everything that you do. Thank you so much. Appreciate
thanks for
it.
having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.